Hi guys, we're going to look at some CR mimic questions today. Now, I know that we've done almost all the, not almost, we've done all the other CR question types before, but we've not taken mimic before. The reason for that is that mimic questions are relatively rare in GMAT. You may not really get to see any, or you may get to see one at most, yeah? But then still, it is important for us to take it because sometimes they can be rather simple. Normally, your mimic questions are simple only, but they take quite a lot of time because you're given one argument and then you're given 5 other arguments quite often, and then you have to find the structure of your original argument and then check it against the structure of all the other 5 arguments. So, and of course, you have to look for what is the best option, right? Normally, we say in critical reasoning questions, there is one correct answer. Look, in RC, we go through elimination. We say that we have to look for the best possible option. But here, when we come to mimic questions, essentially what we have to look for is the best possible option. Yeah, because we're looking for similarity, right? So we're going to look at what is the most similar. So then we have to look at all the 5 options. We have to analyze all of them. They do take time quite often, but sometimes it might be like complete the passage, for example. So there might be just one blank, and there might be like just this one line in each option. So that is not going to take too much time. So you should know exactly how you have to handle a mimic question as well. Yeah. Otherwise, in case you're falling short on time, in case you get that long question where you have, of course, your original argument and you have 5 other arguments, all of them, let's say 3-4 lines each, you can pretty much guess on it, move on, and then come back to it. Of course, bookmark and then come back to it if you get time, in case you are falling short on time. Otherwise, of course, it's not a good idea to bookmark, to come back, etc., because we have seen that it doesn't really work out in real terms. It doesn't really work out to mark things and then come back up. I'm not very sure how exactly they're taking the correction of an error really impacts the score. So then we'll try and avoid it as much as possible. But in case there is no choice, in case you're falling short on time, then certainly mimic is a kind of question where you can mark, go on, come back. That is in case you get those questions where you have big arguments in all the options. Yeah. So we're going to take a look at both kind of questions today. But then, well, solving both kind of questions is exactly the same. You have to analyze your original argument really well. You have to understand exactly what is the logic in it, whether it is a valid argument or not, whether there is a flaw in the argument. If there is a flaw in the argument, you have to identify what flaw that is. Yeah. And then you have to look for exactly the same in your correct option also. Now, you might feel that sometimes the test prep mimic questions are kind of confusing. They are kind of ambiguous. I wouldn't know what the correct answer is either. But then official mimic questions are pretty to the point. Yeah, so you wouldn't face any problem with those. Yeah. Okay, so then we are going to take a look at some official mimic questions. Let me share my screen with you. So for those of you who are joining new today, let me tell you how we'll run the webinar. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to give you a question. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to solve it. The Q&A has been enabled. So then, send me the answer in case you get it. And then we'll discuss the question properly, yeah? All right, so let me share my screen with you. Just give me a moment. All right, so I hope you can see the question. So since 1978, when the copyright law was changed, just a moment. Yeah. When the copyright law was changed, books that are less than 50 years old, less than 50 years old means I'll say, okay, books that are say 10 years old or 30 years old, whatever. Must not be photocopied without the publisher's permission. So they're saying that as per the law, in case the book is, let's say, only 10 years old or 30 years old or something, then it should not be photocopied without the publisher's permission. So you need that, right? They are saying, as per the law, publisher's permission is necessary for photocopying a book which is, let's say, 10 years old or which is 15 years old, etc. Thus, any book that has been photocopied since 1978 without the publisher's permission is necessary. So in case a book has been photocopied without the publisher's permission, then it must be at least 50 years old. So they're saying that if any book has been actually photocopied without the permission, which was a necessary condition, then the book must have been more than 50 years old. So, it would have been, say, 60 years old or whatever. Now, first of all, my first, thought over here is this a valid argument? Guys, we should understand valid and flawed arguments very well. In case you're not sure what a valid argument is, you should check up the content. Yeah, you should check out the conditional statement, that module, okay? So then my thought over here is that, is it valid? Look, it is not valid. And I'm sure you also understand it, right? Just because there is a law, that does not mean that this necessary condition is met every time, that people do adhere to that law and they have done it all the time, right? That is not necessary. We know that, isn't it? Look, there are necessary conditions. For example, if I say, what are actual necessary conditions, logical necessary conditions? For example, in case I say that for x to be greater than 0, for example, for x to be positive, a necessary condition is, what is a necessary condition? That x must be greater than -1. This is, if x is greater than 0, it is necessary that x is greater than -1 as well, right? This is a necessary condition, right? But then, for example, of course, we know our necessary and sufficient conditions really well, that let's say a sufficient condition over here would be x is greater than 100. If x is greater than 100, it is automatically positive. It is automatically greater than 0, right? Now, these are your logical necessary conditions. Or for example, think about it. Let's say if you are told that, the water of the fish tank has to be changed, then what is a necessary condition for that? That the current water of the fish tank has to be removed. It is necessary. Only then can you change the water of the fish tank, right? So those are your logical necessary conditions. And when we say that you must take what is given to be true, etc. So I'm saying that if this is necessary for that, those are my logical necessary conditions. Here I've been given that the law requires us to do it. Whether people actually do it or not, that we have absolutely no idea about, right? Okay, so then this is legally necessary, but does it actually happen? I don't know. So what is my argument? What does it say? It says that the structure of my argument, which I have to find, of the original argument, I have to find the original argument structure, right? The structure is that there is a particular law. It is something is legally required, right? And I am assuming that in case, whatever is legally required is not present, then whatever is not acceptable is not done. Yeah, essentially, I'm saying that everyone does adhere to the law, right? This is what the structure of my argument is. All right. Now, this is an assumption over there that everyone does adhere to the law, right? Okay. Now I have to look for one of the options which exhibits a similar flaw. So look at it. Any member of the solar system must be either a planet or a moon. So if an asteroid is neither a planet nor a moon, it must not be a member of the solar system. Look, it is kind of similar, right? I do feel that it is kind of similar. Any member of the solar system must be either a planet or a moon. This is a necessary condition given to me by definition, right? If I'm defining the solar system, look, we know that solar system has asteroids and comets and whatever other things as well, right? But in case I'm defining it as that any member of the solar system must be either a planet or a moon, then if whatever is necessary, that is to be a planet or a moon. So if an asteroid is neither a planet nor a moon, if an asteroid does not satisfy the necessary conditions, then I'm saying that it must not be a member of the solar system. Well, pretty much the logic is very similar to this one. I am assuming that the definition, whatever the definition that has been given, that is the one which is being followed in my logic over here, right? That if the necessary condition is not being met, then whatever is the previous condition for which necessary condition was necessary, that is also not being met, right? This is what I'm assuming over here. Look, it's not about a law. but then it is kind of similar structure. But as I said, when we are looking for similar, we need to look for the best similar structure. So I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not going to say that this is the answer. The logic is kind of similar, but I'll still just hold on to it. Yeah. Look at B. Anyone who rides a bus must buy a bus pass. So we have been given, again, this is by law, isn't it? That if you want to ride a city bus, it is the city's law. So then it is necessary to buy a bus pass. So I've been given a necessary condition. And since Demetrios has a bus pass, I'm saying the necessary condition is actually being met. Over here, we said that the necessary condition is not being met. Any book that has been photocopied without the publisher's permission, right? Here I'm saying it is not being met in my original argument. Here I'm saying that Demetrios has a bus pass. The necessary condition is being met. He must be riding a city bus. Now, this is a flawed argument. Do you agree that this is a flawed argument? Because having a bus pass is a necessary condition, and I am assuming that it is sufficient. I'm saying because Demetrios has a bus pass, then he must be riding on a city bus. Yeah, I'm the having a bus pass is a necessary condition to ride on the city bus. Just because you have a bus pass does not mean that you must be riding a city bus, right? So then, of course, this is flawed. But what is the flaw over here? We have discussed those 12, 13 flaws. Do you remember those? Now, where we said, there are various different types of flaws that are there that an argument can have. This is one of those. What is it? That a necessary condition has been taken to be sufficient. It is not the same flaw as we have in our argument, yeah, where there is an assumption taken, right? But this is a different flaw, that a necessary condition has been taken to be sufficient. So certainly I can say this is not my answer. The reasoning is not similar at all. Yeah. Go to C. A driver who turns right must signal. Again, this is a law. This is a city law that we're talking about. That must signal. The signaling is a necessary condition to turn right. Yeah. So any driver who did not signal. So if my necessary condition was not met, just like over here we said, if you photocopied without the permission. So if this was not met, must not have turned right. So now, do you see that this logic is very similar to my original logic? In fact, it matches so much better than my logic of option A, right? They are saying that a person who did not signal must not have turned right. Just like we said that if you photocopied without publisher's permission, then the book must have been more than 50 years old. Right? Again, here we're talking about a legal requirement. This was a legal requirement. This is also a legal requirement. It does not mean that everyone met the legal requirement. I'm making the same assumption over here that everyone adheres by the laws, right? So then this certainly matches up much better to my original argument. And this is the reason why I said that we must look at every option properly. We have to look for a perfect match. And guys, in official questions, again, yeah, the match of the reasoning is really, really good. Now, if you do evaluate each option, you wouldn't have a doubt on whether it is correct or not. Yeah. Okay. Look at D. Anyone who legally crosses a national boundary must have a passport. So again, very similar. We are saying that a passport is necessary to legally cross a national boundary. Yeah, it is a law, right? Again, very similar to our original argument, first sentence at least. Thus, anyone who does not have a passport, great. Again, the negated, the necessary condition has been negated, just like it was negated in original argument also. So anyone who does not have a passport cannot legally cross a national boundary. Now, look, there is a difference in this particular option. This is not the correct answer. The logic is not the same as this one because there is no flaw in this. Yeah, this does make sense. By law, I have been given a necessary condition. If the necessary condition is not met, then the main, this cannot be met, right? I've been given that the necessary condition is not met, does not have a passport. They cannot legally cross a national boundary. Here I've been given legally. If it was cannot cross a national boundary, then the logic would be exactly the same as that of our original argument as well. But I have been given they cannot legally cross it. They can. I am not assuming over here that no one can cross the national boundary, right? I'm not assuming that everyone has to adhere to the law. I'm saying they're legally not crossing the boundary. They could be crossing the boundary even then, right? So that is why the argument, this option, this argument structure is not the same as the original. Yeah, there is no flaw in this. Look at E. Any wage earner residing in the state must pay state taxes. Again, a necessary condition. Again, a law-related necessary condition. Great. So since Blodwen pays state taxes, so I'm saying the necessary condition is being met over here. So this is not the same as the original argument. All right. She must be a resident in the state. Again, there is a flaw over here. And if you remember, we just discussed it in this option B, that this also option E also has the same flaw. My necessary condition has been taken to be sufficient. Paying state taxes is necessary for any resident. Just because Blodwen is paying state taxes doesn't mean that Blodwen is residing in the state, right? Again, it is not sufficient. It is just a must. It is just a necessary condition. So there is a flaw over here also. If we were asked to identify the flaw is that necessary condition has been taken to be sufficient. Yeah. So again, this is not the answer. And so we know that our answer is option C, right? No, very, very clear that the answer has to be option C. Yeah, Swapna, why don't you write your question, please? I have access to, will I have access to the recording? Yes, Swapna, you will have access to the recording. It is available in your all recordings folder. In fact, you will have access to all the 49 webinars that have been done till now. Yeah. Between Austin, between B and C, C seems much better. Yes, absolutely. But I hope you, Austin, you understand why B is incorrect. Yeah, it is not about what is better between B and C. Actually, B is incorrect. C is better. And we would have tried to analyze between A and C, perhaps. But then we do know that C is much closer. It is more similar, just talking about the same legal angle, right? So then it makes more sense, right? Okay, any other issue in this question? Should we move?